All right, welcome everybody to another Building Modular with Jennifer and Dave Cooper. What a day we're going to have today, right?
It's going to be great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Here we are again with Building Modular, and we have an excellent, amazing, totally great guest joining us today.
We do, and we have a lot in common today. We're both moving, right? He's moving, we're moving, internet problems. I mean, you name it, we have it. So listen, everyone, we want to thank everybody for joining us at Dave Cooper Live. We are bringing you the people and the processes that are building it better. Our guests include topics and experts in building systems to building science to building codes to the tech used to build it better. And today is no different. We have Bob Bender, COO, like you said, of the Commodore Corporation on. They have 6 manufacturing facilities. They do everything from traditional modular to really HUD code modular. And we'll let Bob get into that when we bring him on the show here, Jen. So why don't you give him a big old welcome and bring him in?
Yeah, thank you. Please, yeah, bring him in.
Mr. Bender, what's happening, my friend?
How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. How are you today?
It's a beautiful morning. It's a beautiful afternoon. Sun's shining, trying to shine. Not too cold. Hasn't snowed. You can't beat that for the middle of December.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for taking time today. We know you're so busy and a lot going on. You know, we mentioned the move and everything else. And we have a lot to talk about today.
We do have a lot to talk about today, but first of all, you know, just getting into this here, you said weather. It's beautiful here. We're in New Jersey right now, but man, we're supposed to get like 2 feet of snow through Pennsylvania tomorrow. So we're going to suck it up and then head west at some point. All right. So Bob, let's hop into this for our guests that are joining us. I mean, here you guys are, you've been around a long time in this industry with the Commodore Corporation, and you guys are doing amazing things and you're super, super busy. Right. And I think first, if you could just give us an overview of who you are and who the Commodore Corporation is, that would be awesome. So with that said, we want to know everything from the moment you were born to this very moment in time, all within the next 3 to 5 minutes, and don't leave out the good stuff from the hospital. No pressure.
Well, we'll start with the important stuff. So the Commodore Corporation is a family-owned, privately held company. Its roots go back to 1952. It used to be a public company back in the 80s, and then it went through a bankruptcy, and the owner of the company, who's still actively involved, purchased it in 1990. So it's been privately owned since then. Like you said, we have 6 factories. We have in Pennsylvania, we have 3. We have 1 in North Carolina. We have 1 here in northern Indiana, which is where our corporate headquarters are based. And then we have 1 up in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin. So we think, although, you know, we don't really check a whole lot of stuff, we think we're the 4th largest in the space, the largest privately held company in the residential volumetric space, because we do both modular and manufactured housing. We run a pretty lean little company. We have a lot of decision rights down at the plant level with our general managers. And then the corporate staff here is largely designed to help them be successful. So that's our primary job, is to help the plants be successful. And the plant's job is to help the builders be successful. And that's kind of our mantra. I got involved in this business serendipitously to a degree. My background is varied. I worked for a Fortune 50 company for about 17 years. And then people may have recognized it if you're under 50. Kodak. I worked for Kodak for about 16, 17 years, and ended up then getting involved with 2 VC startup companies, software, which is where a lot of my background comes from. And we helped grow a couple of companies. It was a lot of fun. I got involved in this business because I ended up marrying the daughter of the owner, who for a number of years tried to get me to come and join the company. And at that point in time, I was enamored with the concept of software, and we were VCs and all that kind of stuff. But I went to a Louisville show in 2004 and saw that you could build homes better at the same price, and in many cases faster. And I made a career change at that point in time.
Yeah.
And have done a whole bunch of stuff, including the first 18 months in the industry, working on the line, on the line in the sales organization, service organization, And since then, we've done a whole bunch of stuff. So.
Yeah, for sure. And how big is the Commodore Corporation now?
Well, we're privately owned. We don't usually share our numbers. We've got about 1,200 employees right now.
Wow,
that's a lot of employees.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of mouths to feed.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah. That's a whole lot of families to have under your belt, right? And that's great.
Yeah. And it's funny, you talk about how you came from Kodak, which, of course we remember Kodak. Some might say you came from out of industry and have proven to find some success here in the home building business.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I guess it depends on your definition of success, but yeah. Right. I think smart people can enter this industry and learn it with some appreciation for the skill and the talent that's in the business today.
Right. For sure. All right. So Bob, why don't we talk about the product line that Commodore Corporation has? Give us kind of the rundown on what markets you guys that you work in, what builders you support, so everybody in the audience knows that.
Well, we may be a little different than some of your guests, Dave and Jen, in that we do both modular and we do manufactured housing. We do only residential. We don't play in the commercial world. It's a space that we have. Now we'll do some townhome projects and stuff like that, but we don't do any multifamily. We don't do anything like that. We've decided for a long time that our space is residential. Our systems are set up to support that, and our channel is all residential. So we're both manufactured and modular. And does your audience know the difference? Because I'd be glad to explain it.
Yeah, well, I think you should explain it because I think that's a big misperception.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm just going to scoot over here to one of our banners. I mean, that is something that there's so much confusion around, even within our own industry. We talk about language and the importance of names and nomenclature and all of that. And essentially, help us understand the underlying differences between these two things, modular homes and manufactured homes.
Okay. Well, they're both residential to a degree, so they can both be residential. They're both volumetric. So the biggest difference is that the manufactured housing business is federally regulated. So it's federally regulated by HUD, and so you'll hear it called HUD code or manufactured housing. You may even hear it called in the old days mobile homes, but in general, anything built before 1976 is considered a mobile home. Everything past then is considered manufactured housing, and it's regulated: the design, the structure, the strength, the transportability, energy, fire ratings, etc. So it's built to one set of codes. Now, modular then is built to the local code, whatever that jurisdiction has. So what we find is that there's lots of places that both can coexist, but each also has their own unique benefits, if you would. So manufactured housing, which we do a fair amount of, works for a lot of places that are rural, that are remote, that don't need a whole lot of zoning. They also work, in fact, with very high-end stuff. So we're building some very high-end condo projects right now using manufactured housing. So it really depends on what the builder and the customer are looking for. We treat them equally. One's not better than the other in our opinion. They're just different.
Right, for sure. Let me get you back over here. So, all right. So with that and the different houses, this is a topic we didn't talk about. Maybe you know something about it, maybe you don't. But what about cross mod? This has been a hot topic we've been hearing a lot about. Is that something you're familiar with? We
are familiar with cross mod. We've been on the Freddie and the Fannie duty to serve committees, and have watched how they've tried to enable different ideas. The concept of cross mod is a trademark by another association, and its intention is to create something, I think, in between the two that's site appearing, site looking, drywall, different cabinets, a pitched roof, etc. one of the challenges between manufactured housing and modular often revolves around financing for the consumer. So there are a lot of places that don't provide. It's often easier. You can often get a lower rate with modular housing because it's financed like every other house it's built,
right?
With wooden sticks. Manufactured housing often is treated differently from a financing perspective, and often is a lot more expensive. So there are some companies out there that are trying to cross that chasm, and the choice and the MH Advantage folks are trying to help cross that chasm too. We haven't done a whole lot, but we remain involved just to see where it ends up going.
Sure.
Right. So with the cross mod, is that a third tier, if you will? I mean, you talked about manufactured housing being built to the IRC code. You talked about volumetric modular, which you build, but modular homes in general built to the local code. I mean, we often say it's built to the IRC code or, federal building code, depending on who you are and what you're doing.
The choice, the cross mod is going to still be built to manufactured housing standards, right? Mm-hmm. It has components in it that the proponents of the cross mod believe that the things that they're doing to it will make it more residential friendly, if you will, and that there's some support from the financing organizations to treat it and have it appraised the same as local housing, as opposed to having it only being appraised against other manufactured housing, which is usually one of the challenges. So it ends up being to a degree a financing hurdle that they're trying to cross at this point in time, simply because it's often cheaper to get a mortgage than to get what's known as a chattel loan or a land and property loan, which is what you usually have to do with a manufactured house.
Right. Yeah, and there's obviously some mixed emotions on this whole conversation, that's out there, especially if it's going to be treated, similarly, even in a finance world, as a traditional home as well. Does, in your mind, does that cause any conflict? I mean, already it's hard to sell modular. Right, you're always trying to explain the difference between a manufactured home and a modular home and codes. I think the branding and the consumers don't really understand it.
Again, we're not doing a whole lot of it at this point in time, Dave. We're aware of it. We're paying attention to it. We're capable of doing it.
Sure.
In fact, many of our manufactured houses are cost more than a modular.
Right.
They're phenomenal properties, and we have people that sell them for hundreds of thousands of dollars in some communities.
Yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of it depends on the location. But I'm not trying to get too worried about how it ends up at this point in time.
Right.
I think that the opportunity set for modular IRC is so enormous. So enormous that I personally am not focused on what small percent might be lost, as opposed to this ridiculous percentage that we can gain. So that's kind of what we're focused on at this point in time. No disrespect to anybody that thinks it's the best thing or the worst thing, but that's an opinion.
Right.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I'm so glad you said it. It's my soapbox. I've been saying it all along. If we were 99% of the business, then I'd get it. I'd get the argument. I'd get the fight, but we're not. We're only 5% together in offsite. And there's 95% of the market we don't have any access to at the moment, or we're not in. And I think that's what we need to be focused on as an industry together, offsite, all together, whether it's manufactured, whether it's IRC, modular, panelized, SIPs, CLT, glue lamp, I don't care, because all of us together only make up 5%. And I do agree with you that we need to be focused on the 95%. And I'd actually like to see all of our industries pull together as one, so we can have a bigger voice and actually go after the 95%.
That would be that's a heck of a soapbox.
Well, hey, look, I even have my own little banner for it, Dave Soapbox. I'd stand on one if I had it, but I don't have one to stand on.
Yeah. So let's go down the volumetric modular path, because that's what we're really here to do.
Yeah.
You touched upon something a minute ago in terms of value and pricing, how some, manufactured homes can actually cost more than a modular home.
Yeah.
And how many modular homes can actually cost more than stick-built, site-built homes. And one of the myths that we often try to dispel here is it's not that modular is cheaper in any sense. I mean, it's all about the construction technology that you put into the home, the level of spec that you're building to, and the level of finish that you're putting into the home that determines that final price. It's not the type of construction that really drives that price point.
You're absolutely right. We use the same, if not better, wood. We use the same nails. We use the same windows. We use the same shingles. We use, we get some price discounts because we buy so many, and we can organize the supply chain differently. But I rarely lead a conversation with cheaper. You won't hear me say it. I don't know that it's true, and so I can't support it, but I can support the fact that we're equal, if not better, and I can support the fact that you have less variables. You know what you're getting. You know when you're getting it. You know what it costs, and so it is less stressful in some cases. So I think there's a lot of benefits. Now, when I came in the business in 2004, that was the lead punch. It's cheaper, right? And I've never been in businesses where I've personally been excited about being cheaper, because I saw it being better and being faster.
Right.
Yep. 100. Right. Go ahead. No. Yeah. All right. I got to do it. I have to do it. My soapbox is back up.
How many soapboxes do you have? And am I hitting them all?
You're hitting. Yes. So the reality of it is, it's a better product. It's built in a controlled environment. You have less warranty issues than a site builder. The home itself, it just overall is not only just better built, it's more sustainable. It's better for the environment. It shouldn't be cheaper. It should be more money.
Yes.
But people out there, you're lucky enough to know that because we're so good, we're on par with everybody else, and sometimes it is going to be less money. But the reality of it is, to get better quality, you shouldn't be paying less money. You should be paying what the value of the quality you're getting is. And I think selling on cost and cheap or less money is what hurts our industry, because it should be the other way around.
Well, I think that in any industry, Dave, you'll have people that compete on a spectrum of stuff. So there'll always be somebody that competes on being less expensive, and there will always be somebody. But within our industry, I mean, the products that we build, that's not our space. You can go find cheaper product.
Yeah.
Compared to what we build, there's cheaper product out there. There's more expensive products. So you got to find what works for you and what works for your builders, and those builders are really going to determine your success. It's because they're the ones selling. They're the ones doing the interface with the customer. So.
Yeah, right. Definitely. So let's talk about your builder network, because you pretty much service most of the country, right? With all your different locations.
We serve from the Dakotas all the way down to South Carolina and over to Oklahoma.
Right.
So we serve somewhere around 31 states. But you can do that with the footprint we have, with the factories being located in different spots. We certainly have a much bigger presence in the Northeast because we have 3 large factories in the Northeast. So we have a little bit more presence there. But we're seeing great growth everywhere. We're seeing huge backlogs, huge interest. In fact, that's the challenge I think many manufacturers have these days, is how do you accommodate more capacity? Because the market is there. And for us that have been trying for a long time, if there's room on your soapbox to say that building inside makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The market's ripe for that. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we don't build more before we build better. And so we continue to try to build right and safely, and then volume follows. But we're not done.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it, right? How do you create a scalable business? Oh gosh, more.
No, he wanted some room on my soapbox, so I gave it to him. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, certainly you've found a way to scale, and this is a topic obviously that came up yesterday with Colby Swanson and Dennis Steigerwalt. Yep. And how do you build innovation into your pipeline when you're so busy building? How do you keep creating that plus one, reaching new heights and raising the benchmark when you're so busy? And how do we grow the industry through collaboration, which you are collaborating with others? Aren't you a member of the MMC as well?
Mm-hmm. We're MMC, and we just got done off a rotation of the MHBA board, and I think there's a lot of good organizations out there that are trying to highlight how cool this stuff is, right? I mean, I still smile as much as anything if I get to geek out and walk people through a factory. I mean, you have to put me on a watch, otherwise I geek out the whole way. And look at this, isn't this cool? Right. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that cool? But it is a fair question, Chen. That how do you get better when you're busy? And that scales not only from the suppliers, but also to the manufacturers and to the builders. And so builders aren't going to try a whole lot of new things if they're busy doing what they already know. From a manufacturer perspective, it's a challenge. Most of the business models that's in the manufacturing space today don't scale into multiple shifts, which is one of the things that strangers to the business kind of go like, well, how come? Well, because we're still personalizing houses, right? Mm-hmm. We're not building the same thing day after day after day. And so for us, it's been a struggle. We're focused on a couple of different areas. We've been able to introduce some new tools. I'm not quite sure automation is the right word. Better tools. So, for instance, we're replacing 4 to 6 saws and routers with CNC machines. Mm-hmm. We're in the process of we've got 4 of our 6 plants now over the past couple of years, and the last 2 plants we'll have CNC equipment in them sometime this spring, I hope. So you have to do it very carefully, because you are producing things at the same time you're trying to introduce new technologies, and they're not without stumbles, right? So we've introduced some other R&D at a couple of plants that have tripped on themselves, but now they're working fine. People don't. It's hard because when you're taking off in a plane, sometimes the hardest part of the plane ride is when you're taking off, right? You got to get to cruising altitude. So that's what we keep reminding them, whether we're instituting a leading edge purchasing system or new tools to help build accuracy. How do you take labor out of the product? That's one of our key words that we look at every single day. How do you take labor out of the product? Not only on the production line, but in the whole business process.
Yeah, I mean, and that is something that you could apply everywhere, from not only your production line, but to your supply chain, to pricing, to, design selections, pretty much, through technology, just across the board, the different platforms that you have, that is the approach that is winning out there, because again, that's an out of industry mindset.
Yeah. For sure.
I don't know if it's out of it may be. I don't know. I don't usually talk to the other CEOs and say, what are you spending your money on? But we're blessed to have, again, privately held and well capitalized. We sort of get to do things when we think it's the right time to do them.
Right. Love it. Well, Anthony Goudet in the audience says, how to accommodate the capacity. What a great challenge to have.
It's a better problem to solve than the opposite.
Exactly.
Right. We just have to. Everybody in the business has to respect the fact it's our turn to shine, and so don't mess it up. Right. There's more people, more interested, more curious, more money. Let's make sure you do it right as this new wave of interested homeowners and builders and investors come into the space.
Well, and are you seeing that? Are you seeing a new wave of builders entering the offsite marketplace with you guys? Are you seeing an influx of interest?
Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of turnover, Dave, in our channel. We tend to take a long time to build the channel up, and then it tends to stick with us for a long time. So knock on wood, that will continue. It would be disappointing to talk about in public how much business we are turning away at this point in time. It's almost disheartening, but on the other hand, we're trying our very best to support the people who have been with us and who have gotten us to this point in time, and they've got the same challenges. They don't have scalability like they'd like to. Right. They've got more business opportunities they've ever had, and the whole chain. Whether it's, you talked briefly yesterday about set crews. I mean, the whole thing, from set crews and cranes and contractors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I'm personally building my own modular house right now, and my foundation guy is 6 weeks late because of this or because of that, and so I'm getting a dose firsthand of what it's like to be my customer.
Well, and doesn't he know you're Bob Bender? I mean, what's the matter with this guy?
Hey, the foundation guy doesn't give a poop who I am, right? I'm just another basement that he's got to do.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I think though that this is, a prime example of two things. Number one, what you just did by saying how much business there is out there that you can't accommodate. You just gave an open invitation to so many others to get into this space, and that is exactly what we need as well. And number two, you really extolled the advantage of the parallel path of construction, the site work being done at the same time that the offsite work is being done, and how you can control those two so that they can come together, because the last thing you want is your home coming off the line 6 weeks before your foundation is in.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So I know exactly when my house is going on the production line. It'll be done just about the time the foundation is cured. It just, and I'm able to do it in January in Michigan.
Right.
So the fact that you can do it when the business is there, instead of having to do it when weather allows, there's just so much more opportunities to build inside than outside sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Building inside is not perfect for everybody, and it's not the panacea, but there's so much upside here, and there's a lot of builders out there that are curious about it, and it's kind of exciting to see it.
Yeah, no, I know for us, it's been one of the things that we're most proud of is that more people are interested in getting into the space, and there are people like you out there willing to share your stories, good, bad, and ugly. You talked about the takeoff pattern. We often say it's like the brackish. It's that brackish between getting out into the open seas when your boat gets thrown around a lot. But even though you're busy, you still have to keep your eye on the future. You have to keep your eye on tomorrow, and not just about, how to build it better, but staying in front of what the homeowner is demanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the homeowner at the end of the day drives the conversation with the builder, but the builder, our more successful builders are trying to get really good at what they do instead of being everything to everybody.
Correct.
Right. And so whether that's trying to understand how to do really well with 2 or 3 manufacturers, maybe 1 or 2, trying to say, this is what I'm really good at, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. I'd love to do your project, but I'm going to be more successful you'll be happier if we do these kinds of things. So there's a learning curve, because the builders themselves for years have said, bring it on, we'll do anything. Right. And there's a huge market, Jen, that in the Northeast, there's huge visibility of big, beautiful modular houses. In the South, we build overwhelming percentage of our houses we build on our North Carolina plant, it's an all mod plant, are capes. They're all Cape Cods, and in the Northwest the Midwest, it tends to be I don't want a simpler house, because that's not fair. It's still a very difficult house, but Doesn't tend to be the multi-story mega mentions kind of stuff. So
Right.
it's kind of fun to see how each of those could cross-pollinate across the country, because you can build any of those with a modular.
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, just kind of going over to the car industry for a minute, you don't go to a Subaru dealership looking to buy a Volvo. When you talk about these builders who put their name out there and say, this is what I build, this is what I'm really good at, yes, you can personalize, yes, you can make it yours, but stick within the parameters and we will all be successful. I think that's a really strong lesson to builders, because listen, that's how they'll gain more volume as well.
I tell people all the time that there's not a whole lot of 7-2 point guards. So it's hard to be everything to everybody. Sell into your strength. Now, that doesn't mean you just focus only on that. You always try to get better, but that just means your strengths expand, right? And if you've got good channel partners and good supply partners, they'll help you along the way too.
Well, that's true. And if you're a builder out there listening, and you do, let's just say you do, middle of the range homes, right? You're not first time home buyers. You're also not Greenwich McMansions, 7,000-10,000 square foot homes. Sticking with what even in the modular or manufactured space, is just as important as when you do it in the space you're in as a stick builder now, because it gets complicated. It gets harder. The customers get more discerning. And I agree. I think that's kind of what you were saying, is stay within your lane and know the manufacturer that you're working with, know what the capabilities are. And the biggest thing is knowing where your job begins and ends. And I guess that's kind of what I'm leading into, even with you guys. You do such a great job keeping your builder network. How important is that communication between the manufacturer and the builder as far as coordination and really having a smooth project?
Well, it certainly gets easier the longer you get to deal with somebody.
Yep.
Right. And so as you gain experience, relationships matter to us. We're building the company on a set of core values, and that's the very first one in our core values is that relationships matter.
Yep.
But they have to be sustainable and mutual, right? So creating that relationship, and relationships are often created through difficult times, right? So I wish I could say that I've built every house we built perfect, and that'd be ludicrous. We're going to make a mistake. The builder's going to make a mistake. Maybe the GC, there'll be mistakes along the way. There's just lots of moving parts. It happens in site built. It happens in any industry you have. It really then boils down to how well do you work to solve them to make that customer successful. Because at the end of the day, our success depends on our builders. So if our builders are successful with us, we'll be successful. We can't create that ahead of them. We have to rely on them to create it for us.
And that's where the partnership is, and the collaboration is. And like you said, the long-term relationship. Not to enter into a relationship with the manufacturers, oh, you're just my supplier. There's a relationship there. And it grows and it becomes a team, as opposed to I'm paying you got to deliver this.
Yeah, and our better builders tend, not always, but they tend to focus on a couple of brands, one or two. They tend to know what they're good at. They tend to sell into that strength. Again, that doesn't mean that your lane gets more narrow. In fact, when you get strong at something, you can expand because you're already solid in the middle. You're already solid here, and you can expand a little bit, but doing a little here and a little here and a little here, I don't know how you can ever get good at anything. I mean, maybe people do, but that's not within something I've ever had experience with.
Sure. Well, Colby Swanson took some time to say hello. Let's say
hello, Colby.
Excuse me. Bob and the Commodore Corporation team have been a leader in the industry for decades. Curious how Bob sees the SF offsite home market changing over a 10-plus year horizon.
It's going to be bigger.
Bigger and better.
I think, again, if you'd asked me this question 5 years ago, I'd probably given you a different answer. But I think fundamentally building inside makes a lot of sense. And so now it's a matter of how do you create that variable manufacturing to support what we expect to see very positive decade, right? There'll be nuances that are very important. Interest rates are low now. They won't always be. That will create some changes in demand, but there's always going to be a need for single family residential houses. And like you said, Dave, we don't need 95%. We don't need 50. If we can get 10, we won't know. We will be so busy trying to be successful that maybe that's a target. We don't have a target number. We just, I mean, we're in the process of trying to make sure that we personally, our company, gets better before we get much bigger.
Right.
Because at some point in time, you don't scale well without getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we talked about, taking the labor out of it, but in terms of, building it better, how do you apply that to you building bench strength or building your team or building your leadership team? Obviously, you really lead by example, in many respects. How do you teach your leadership team to bring up that next generation and really create that legacy workforce?
And that's a very good and a very hard question, right? We a number of years ago, about 3 years ago, we started down a process, Jen, of identifying that there were some things in our business, along with most manufacturing, that were challenging and that needed to be solved. Whether it's high turnover or a lack of training down on the factory floor. How do you get people from outside the industry to join the industry? If the only people we ever hire are from this business, it could be a shrinking gene pool. Mm-hmm. And so how do we move through those challenges? The problems aren't going to go away. So we started solving with who we are. We looked at ourselves, went through a pretty exhaustive stage that created our core values, both in terms of who the owner is, who's still very active, still works way too many hours a week, probably 50 to 60 hours a week still. But as the transition comes to me, and then I'll have to find somebody to transition the business to in the future, it shouldn't be as much personality based as it should be core value based. Right. And if you can create these core values that eventually allow you to hire people and work with people that share them, problem solving becomes a lot better. It's a lot more fun to go to work. There's all kinds of benefits if you can grow around, know your strengths, know your space, right? So if these aren't things you believe in, then you're probably not going to be very happy working for us. So we've gone to the point now where we have a full-time leadership development director, reports to me. We hired him last January, and for a big kickoff, and then that little thing happened in March that sort of slowed things down. But we're ramping it right back up as much as we can, and it's really about how do you create better leadership, right? So it starts with looking at ourselves. How do we be better leaders for our own people, all the way down to the factory floor. There's a saying that one of my friends has said that the days of a production manager going in and yelling at people and show up, shut up, show up, get done, go home. The 8 words of production, they don't exist anymore because that's not the way people want to be treated. So we're really spending a lot of time and a lot of money, and it's a long vision. It's not something that you just sprinkle a magic wand on and it happens, but we're full-time believers in it. And so between doing that, how do you help people get better? We're investing aggressively in the business. There's a number of companies that are. That's just not us. And if you can take labor out of the product by giving them better tools within the capacity we have, we might be able to build more and take advantage of this growing market.
So, we talked about, well, there's 2 things. One, I want to touch on, culture is such a big factor in a successful corporation of any size, right? The people are what make you successful. But I also say business is easy until people get involved, right? There's the other side of that equation. So, but you're absolutely right. Core values and culture and having a belief that people live and breathe by, that they really believe in what the mission is of a company, I think is one of the greatest things a company can do by far, but it's also one of the hardest things to stay up with, implement, and live and breathe by, because it has to be lived and breathed by everybody from the very top all the way through.
It has to be consistent. It has to be intentional. And that's the word we use. It has to be intentional. And so the vision that the leadership director and I and the senior managers here all have is that at some point in the future, I don't know whether it's 2 years or 4 years, this will be a primary hiring.
Right.
This will be a primary way we hire people, especially as you get more senior, because you won't be happy if this is how we run the company. And that's not how you want to work.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it too, so many of the people who work there, regardless of their role, could potentially be a representation of the client, because they all live somewhere. They all want to live in a home, so they bring that side of it, to the equation as well, that, they represent the buyer. And Colby, I know, had a question on that as well.
Let's jump to Colby's follow-up question here, and then I want to get into how do you implement change when you're so busy, right? And I know that's a hard thing, and that's, I think, what people have to really understand in here. So, but first, let's go. Any thoughts on the consumer front? How they buy, what they buy?
Yeah, I mean, there's how many consumers out there, and that's how many houses people are going to want to design on their own. So again, if everybody will find their space, and so we provide some amount of customization, a fair amount actually. People can bring in a napkin drawing, and we can do it. There are other companies that's what they live on. That's what they thrive on, and they're very good at it. I don't know what customers' choices are going to end up being. I think that there are some characteristics of housing that are going to become more important. I think that there's at least with my kids and the 20-year-olds I talk to, there's a huge appreciation. There's a curiosity. Why are we building these things outside? Doesn't it make sense to build it inside? So I think there's a whole new sense of appreciation for what we do across the industry. And I think that there'll be an appreciation or an understanding of, hey, we can do these things really well in a factory, and there are some things that we may not be able to do so well. And if we can't do them inside a factory, do them when you move into the house, right? There's no reason that has to be a cutoff, right? Because it's a continuum depending on who wants to do what and where it wants to be done.
Right. So with that, I mean, obviously you referenced the big change that happened last March where, people had to shut down, close their doors, and perhaps all the folks that were walking through, the factory, doing a factory tour or walking through a new home that was recently installed, that kind of went away for a lot of manufacturers and a lot of builders, and they had to move to a virtual platform that then almost, was more like of an e-commerce experience for the client, where they had to sell themselves based on the website and the tech, and how can they personalize their home on your website? Can they price any options on your website? That type of thing. Did you see an uptick in interest from that virtual engagement from potential home buyers or even your builder network?
Well, we had certain builders that took advantage of it. Other builders just tried to get through it. Right. So change is difficult at all times. Because we don't sell anything to consumers, we don't have any prices. We intentionally divorce ourselves from all those conversations. It's probably the first question we get asked. The number one question we get asked every day online, whether it's whatever platform questions are coming in, how much does this cost? I can't tell you. Right. Because there's too many things that affect what that price is: location and land, and how much you want a deck, you want a garage, you want a basement, you want a swimming pool, you want a fence, you want a gutter, right? All those things affect it. So I think we have a very strong online team here. because it's the way you have to do business now. And so we're perpetually investing in what those platforms are. We tend to change our website about every 3 years. That tends to be our timeline that's coming around the corner here. We try to get ahead of stuff. We have some ideas of how we're going to do things differently over the next 12 to 18 months, but that's not for the public.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to have a follow-up conversation.
When we launch it, we'd be glad to show you.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So, I mean, basically what you're saying is the reinvention, that +1 never stops, whether it's every 3 years, every 2 years, you can't just sit back on your heels and say, oh, we've been doing this for 52 years. We're good. We got it.
I'll get on my soapbox. So another one of our core values is curious to be better.
Right.
So you always have to be curious. How do you get better? Right.
Yeah.
So another one of ours is we appreciate diversity of thinking. So just the only thing that you can't say to me is, well, that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
Right. That's my genuine number one. I'm throwing the soapbox at you.
Well, that's it for sure. So I agree that that's the worst comment anybody ever makes in business. And that's usually the death of a business. Well, that's how we've always done it. All right. So I told you it's already an hour, 50 minutes already. That's how fast this time goes by. What I want to see is, what are you seeing as the future of offsite modular? I know we say it's going to grow, but let's talk a little bit about automation. Let's talk a little bit about how do you implement automation when you're busy? And do you see the custom home market in technology being different than the commercial, commercial technology being different, right? Because it's more plug and play in the commercial side, right? If you're doing hotels and all that, it's basically step and repeat, step and repeat. Well, custom home building is a little bit different, but it makes it easier for a commercial builder to put more automation in, or no? What is your thoughts on this? And will we be able to take it to the future?
Again, we don't do commercial, Dave and Jen, so I'm by no means an expert at all. I don't think commercial is as plug and play as most people think. The few factories that I've been through, you have different widths, different fireproofing, different components, and in fact, they have to build a whole lot of them at once, as opposed to what we do, which is build one home at a time. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking at is what's the right balance in terms of how do we build things. Fundamentally, we are doing a deep dive at the most senior level of right. What is the right way of building these offsite, right? And why does that matter? And can we build better? And can we build more efficiently? And what technology, whether it's automation or software, can assist in getting us there? So you're still going to need factories. There's no robot, in my opinion, that's going to be able to put up trim. There's no robot that's going to lay down LVP planks or roll carpet perfectly or straighten the sink or make sure that countertop, the cabinet doors is straight. Those are all going to take people. So it's really how do you create a work environment in the factory of the future that combines the right amount of people and technology / automation. So right. Most of the things that automation people are doing, it's a better saw. So we're replacing 4 to 6 saws and tools with one, hyped up CNC router, right? We'll be replacing some other tools over the next 12 months with new technology that hopefully will do it safer. That's our rule number one. Can it be done safer? And then can you do a better job at it? And almost always, if you can do those two things, you almost gain efficiency every time. So I see the next factory we build will be fairly different than the ones we've built in the past. I don't think it's going to be dramatically different, but there's going to be enough nuances in there that people will go, oh, okay, I see, I get it. And hopefully we're more right than wrong. And then where we made a mistake, we try to get better.
Right.
So with that, when you think about the factory of the future and perhaps this next, opening, Are you working with outside partners to plan this? Are you coming up with these plans on your own? How do you, we talk about collaborate to innovate. That's a big hashtag that the Housing Innovation Alliance uses, for example. Are you working with others to really create that factory of the future?
At this point in time, most of our conversations today are within some of those organizations like the Alliance. It's a very interesting group of people that range from suppliers all the way through manufacturers and builders and developers. Each one has their own perspectives, and that's kind of fun to listen to their problems because everyone has them. And so there's casual groups of people too that we get on the phone and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I don't think anyone's ever going to do this on their own.
Right.
And I think it's going to be, as long as there's, for every one step backward, there's 2 steps forwards.
Sure.
We're interested in investing. So we don't have a timetable. There's some things that I think we can do better internally, but the last 2 factories we've bought were not intentional. They just presented themselves. And so it's a matter, how do we help accommodate that capacity that I think is going to be there for a long time.
Right.
It's what I think about driving home.
Right. As you unwind.
I mean, that's just it. You're passionate about it, and it shows. You're leading by example, and you're supporting your builder network. You are empowering your workforce to really think differently. And that is where you have those breakthroughs and that growth, that scalability. That's where that comes from.
It's a lot more fun to have 100 people thinking about how to get better than just 5, right?
For sure.
And that's kind of what we're looking for. And we're starting to see some of those opportunities come up. So it's I'm looking forward to the day that there's more good ideas than there is ability to sift through them all, right?
Absolutely. I
think that's coming. It's coming, Bob. I can feel it.
I tell people that that have known me in the past, like, why would you go from the software industry and doing some cool stuff to manufacturing modular homes? And there's no business I've been in, guys, and I say this all the time, there's no business that I've been in that has more upside than the space that we are in right now. There's no industry I've ever been part of. There's no business. The people are outstanding throughout the entire industry. It's just a really good place to be. And I'm excited to see the opportunity come around that other people are going to invest in it and see how fun this is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh,
go ahead. No.
I mean, we're so thankful and appreciative that you've chosen to spend this hour talking to us about it, because that enthusiasm, that passion, those words of encouragement to others, not only to invest, but also to get involved, not just financially, but physically get involved. That's how we're going to, you always say, go further, faster.
Yeah, together with the collaboration. Like you said, I mean, you do stuff with the Housing Innovation Alliance, MHBA, and MMC and all these others. What we're trying to do is, let's funnel our voice together. And that's why I love talking to all the different parts of the industries and all the different associations, whether it's panelized SIPs, modular. It doesn't matter to me as long as we're talking about moving forward, as long as we're talking about how do we get to the next level? How can we get out of last place on the innovation scale for any industry, right? That's not to me, like you said, there's only one place to look, and that's up, right? So there's a good place to be, and then there's 95% of the market in front of us to capture if we can be smart and capture it together.
And you guys are bringing a unique and valuable platform for people to hear different opinions and different viewpoints, experience different opinions. And so I think what you guys are doing is really kind of interesting. I think it's going to end up being a critical component of how we collaborate in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that's what we want. we want to bring the industry together. Just like you, I've been building modulars for 20 years, and for 20 plus years, I've been explaining what it is and why it's better. And I wake up at night sweating because I said it so much. And now we finally have a voice, and we have people looking at us. Like at the Housing Innovation Alliance, there's some pretty major players, developer-wise, big hitters that show up there from suppliers, developers, builders. And they're asking questions. They're curious. That has not happened in the past, not to the level it's happening today. And that makes it so much fun. I know it does for me. And I can see on your face, it is fun, right?
It is fun.
We have a question from Joel Hutchins. You know Joel Hutchins from Revia?
I've met him. Yes, I believe.
Joel says, Bob, your software stack, now that you are running CNC, will need some streamlining. Let's chat. I'd love to help with design automation in order to achieve direct file to factory.
We already do that.
You already did that? Is that what you said?
We already do that. All of our CNC files are generated here at our corporate design facility, and the people on the floor just pull up the next house and pull up the kitchen and pull up the designs and load them into the CNC. So we've already accommodated that, but I'm always interested in learning what else there is out there.
Well, I mean, that's just it. I mean, and something that, Joel and I have both said in the past, digitize to industrialize. And when you have, it's like people talking, when your factory is talking, when there's that direct line of communication to the machines, I mean, that's efficiency. And regardless of how you're getting there, you talked about some proprietary work that you're doing there, creating your own solutions. It's not all one size fits all, but again, what we're excited about in terms of this platform is people like Joel and you can connect. And, had you not had that solution already, it provides that opportunity for the conversation to happen. So,
I just had a visualization about Bob Bender here.
Oh gosh.
Well, what? No, a good visualization. Hey, you're the first person I've ever shared my soapbox with. So that's the first thing. But when I start hearing all these things about how you're building your data for your CNC machines and all these things that are underneath the radar, I'm looking at him like he's like the commander standing out of the hatch of like a nuclear submarine, and below him is like 130,000 people hard at work pulling all this data and working together. But he's so calm, cool, and collective, just taking in the sun while everybody else has been on down below for 6 months spinning the wheels. I think it's great, man.
No, you set a direction and you give them all the tools and support that they need to be successful. You treat people inside the business. In fact, if I could show you my office, you said we're moving our corporate office. We're moving our corporate offices literally so that we make it a better place to work for primarily our engineering and drafting people. And because that's what you have to do. You have to find a way of connecting with folks. So how do you just keep getting better? That's what I wake up every morning saying, that this is a good day if I get to solve a problem.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, normally we ask a lot of guests, what's the one thing that you would want to leave the audience with today? And I think you've hit so many one things. Like, I don't know how we could pick one, but I mean, essentially it's what we end our show with weekly, which is build it better than last time.
Yeah.
Build it better than last time.
Mm-hmm.
Look back, reflect, Monday morning quarterback it, and just build it better next time. And through empowering your team and cultivating a culture of leadership, incorporating automation and just construction technology. I mean, these are the tools of the future. Listening to your builder network, listening to your home buyer. That's going to take you where you need to go.
We hope so. Awesome.
Well, listen, Bob, there you go. It's been an hour and 2 minutes. We kept you longer than we were supposed to, but I think it was worth the conversation. And I'm very grateful. 2 thumbs up that you joined us today. Thank you so much.
And I'm glad I got to see some soapboxes.
Yeah, you definitely, right? I'll send you one in the mail here soon so you can stand on one at the office every once in a while.
Bob, I don't even have a soapbox.
I've never even shared my soapbox with this one. Yeah, right.
Wow. I don't know what to do now.
In trouble.
Thanks for the time. I appreciate. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to seeing more of you guys online.
Thank you. And in person, hopefully in the future.
There you have it, everybody. So Bob Bender, the Commodore Corporation, what a great conversation it was. Please check us out. Go to our YouTube channel and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, davecooper.live. And just so everybody knows, and Bob, you may like this too, because I think you guys should be here. We are on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, but guess where else we're at, Bob? We're on Twitch. You want to know why we're on Twitch? Because that's where all the young gamers are and all the young people out there. They need to know what we're doing in our industry. And they need to know that there is so much upswing for them to bring that knowledge to what we do. Come on over. We'd love to have you. So now we're streaming on Twitch as well. So hopefully we get their attention. But everybody else out there, have a wonderful week. Enjoy the snow if you're in the Northeast like we are. And we'll see you next time. Bob, you hang tight. We'll come right back to you here in just a moment.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.